Hi guys, today we're going to be talking about transformation. And by this point we covered most of the important factors that have to be taken into account when creating an effective training plan. But there are still a few more little details that we have to fill in order for you to be able to see a complete picture. And transformation is one of them. It might seem that this topic is more performance oriented and is more appropriate for weightlifters and powerlifters. But even if you are a bodybuilder, as we said, increasing of the training loads that you are using is a good sign that you are actually progressing. And this is why this is still relevant. To put it simply, transformation is how improvement in one athletic quality affects a different athletic quality. And we kind of touched on it when we spoke about how strength training carries over into punching power. And now we're just going to expand on that discussion and add a little more technical terminology to it. So number one thing to understand is that transformation can actually be broken down into two separate categories: transformation and transmutation. What transformation basically is how you work in one athletic quality will make you better at that athletic quality. So for example, how you doing pull-ups will make you better at doing pull-ups. Transmutation is slightly different. Transmutation is about how you work in one athletic quality will affect your performance in a different athletic quality. So for example, how your good mornings will affect your deadlift. Another important thing to understand is that this process is not instantaneous and it takes time for the carryover to occur. And that's why the official terminology is delayed transformation and delayed transmutation. And now we're going to agree that we understand all those concepts. But for the purposes of keeping this discussion simple, we're just going to include it all under transformation umbrella term. It should be obvious that the more similar exercises are, the more effect they will have on each other. So for example, if I made significant improvements in my front squat, I can expect significant improvements in my back squat as well. On the other hand, significant improvements in leg press might not have the same carryover effect to back squat. Let's now make graphic representation of how things play out. But two things first. Number one is that this is not any kind of evidence-based data, so don't hold me to any numbers here. Number two is that we're going to say that this is a one-way street. This graph is about how improvements in your shoulder press will affect your bench press and not the other way around. So let's see what we have here. If I improved my shoulder press by 20 pounds, I could potentially improve my bench press by 10 pounds. And I say potentially because, as we just said, it will take time and proper planning for that to actually happen. On this side, we have our good old accommodation curve. And as you might remember from this episode, we said that the rate of the progress will slow over time. Let's say in the beginning of my career, all I did was powerlifting, and my bench press was pretty decent. On the other hand, let's say I never really did any shoulder press, and it was very much behind. Now, as you can see on this curve, the rate of the progress for my bench press is about to slow. On the other hand, my shoulder press still has a lot of room for improvement. Now let's combine these two curves. Since it will be so much easier for me to keep progressing in shoulder press at this point, and some of that improvement would be expected to carry over into my bench press, it would be wise for me to include shoulder press in my program at this stage of my career to give my bench press a little push instead of just keep grinding that bench press all on its own. Now let's see what things would look like for a very advanced athlete. If it takes me all this time to make this very little improvement in my shoulder press, and then only a fraction of that improvement is expected to carry over into my bench press, at this stage of my career, I might just be better off focusing strictly on my bench press. Practical application of this discussion has to do with the variety of exercises that we need at different stages of our career. As you can see, when you're a beginner, you don't need that much variety because it really wouldn't make that much difference. And you would be better off just to focus on a few main exercises and hammer that technique to perfection. Because any faulty patterns that are learned during this stage would be very difficult to correct later on. And this is something that I know from my own example. Because when I started training, there was no YouTube exercise tutorials from Big and Strong channel. And if I was doing squats and didn't tell you what I was doing, you'd probably assume that I'm doing good mornings. And now, after many years of trying to correct that technique, once the fatigue kicks in, I still fall back to those patterns to at least some extent. And while we're here, I just want to add that nobody should be taking steroids at this stage of their career. Not that you should be taking steroids, period, but for you to take steroids as a beginner is very much the same as buying a Ferrari in New York. It just doesn't make any difference because you already move as fast as you could. But back to our topic. The importance of variety of exercises will increase as you move into intermediate stages of your career, because at this point, improvements in various motor abilities will have great effect on your overall progress. That importance will fade away as you move into advanced stages of your career, because at this point you probably don't have any more lagging body parts. And that's in fact why training programs of the very elite athletes are usually very, very specific. So that's transformation for you guys. As I said in the beginning, it's a little more technical, but at the same time, it's important for you to know, to have a complete understanding of strength training. And that's going to be it for today, and I'll see you guys next time.